The concept of self-growth often looks at your growth and development through your lifetime. And this means going from a little person to an older, wiser, mature person, or one area of your life to another, a higher level of that same area of your life. And so to really capture growth, we have to look at the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual elements of growth, and the fact that even though they all come together to impact and influence growth in every single area, your ability to understand, master, and influence that growth one area at a time is what self-growth signifies. Stephen R. Covey captures growth beautifully in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this is a way that I haven't seen growth explained before. And I want to use that today to highlight and move our talk of self-growth to another level. Now, the first level that we find ourselves in post-birth is the level of dependence. Every little child is dependent on their caregiver for care and changing and nurture and safety and every single aspect of their life. And so you're molded by that caregiver in accordance to their own knowledge. You inherit their spirituality depending on what is practiced in that home. Even though you inherit some aspects of your caregiver's identity and beliefs and characteristics, you start to mold and build your own and become your own person, thereby gradually going towards independence physically, mentally, emotionally, until the point where you start earning for yourself and, if possible, living on your own. The second element of growth is that of independence. So you've moved from that area of dependency into your own person, making your own decisions, crafting your own life. The difference between an independent person as a mature grown adult and a dependent person is in your self-worth, your belief in yourself. The highest level of maturity and growth comes from being interdependent. So after gaining your independence and knowing and understanding and loving yourself and your value as an individual, you then seek a higher purpose and higher connection so that you can share ideas and learn from them and grow together and build things that are bigger than those that you on your own could have achieved. So in other words, you put your heads together to learn and grow and socialize and build a stronger bond and community with other like-minded people. He argues that it's very difficult for a dependent person to build this strong interdependent community because of their self-loathing and self-hate and self-doubt and inability to find their own voice and their own strength in a way that makes them stand enough and confident within a group of independent people who all know what they bring to the table and know what they want from themselves or each other. Because there's very little value and strength and feeling of hope and value in self, people who are extremely dependent externalize everything. The word you captures everything about them. You are the reason why I'm successful, because you introduced that opportunity. You are the reason why I'm miserable, because you did not introduce that opportunity. You failed to come through for me. You inflicted that pain on me. You did this. You didn't do this. You're selfish. You're hateful. You. Because I do not see that value in me. I do not understand my own shortcomings, my own triggers, and my own need for growth and development. So I externalize everything. And because I externalize everything, I am very likely to stay in that level of dependence for longer than needs to be. So if you find yourself externalizing, whether positively or negatively, it means that you're highly dependent on that thing or person or situation that the you is describing. You did this. You didn't do this. Until you get to a point where you change that you to I, which is what he thinks the independent person claims. I am capable of doing that thing. I made a mistake about that thing. I am going to learn to do that thing. So, irrespective of whether it's a thing to do or a thing to learn or a mistake to correct, it's I who has to do it. It has to come from internally. No matter the source of the mistake, I have to do that climbing, that learning, that seeking to acquire whatever needs to be acquired or to unlearn whatever needs to be unlearned within me to enhance my ability to acquire that thing. So I is that dominant word that describes the independent person. And if you haven't guessed it by now, we is the interdependent descriptor. We have to sit down and talk about that plan and follow that goal. We have to take that trip together. I've been meaning to sit down with you and find out how you made that gain, how you acquire so much success in your life. I am struggling with public speaking and I see that you're excelling in that area. So we have to acquire and achieve and plan towards that higher purpose, that goal that suits not just me. So when you start to move out of your stronghold, your independence, your individuality, and all the qualities that you have within that space, and bring them to sit with others and build a larger goal, a cause, a purpose, joining the club of baking, knitting, anything that goes away from your individual ability to the other way, the group that come together to enhance each other. That is the higher level of maturity and growth that you seek after you acquire the individual skills that first make you stand alone, know you alone, love you enough to know that you want to share this value with others, that you want to learn more value from others. I found that intriguing. And I found that it actually makes me understand growth a lot more than I did before. Every step of this process takes you further out of that defined comfort zone. And if you think about it, the comfort zone will be limiting whether you're dependent or independent. If you carry on looking at who is coming, who is doing what to you, then you're limiting yourself here. And if you're one of those who is already doing well, you know that you're capable and worthy, you know that you have something to offer, then what next? Who do you need to be impacting with that skill set, with that message? How much growth can you gain away from that level of I've achieved this, I'm capable of this. Now I want to impact some lives with this. I want to put this message out there for you, for us. Start following up that way in your life. And that is the highest level of maturity. This will go just as much for your spiritual journey, that you start going away from I'm a believer. I'm waiting for the preacher to come and preach. I'm waiting to go to church. To that point where you start taking that initiative to go deeper in your learning, in your preaching, in your sharing of that message and the value that it has for you. That's when you're at that top level spiritually. The same goes for your financial journey. When you're earning that monthly income, then you're independent. You're no longer at that dependent stage where you're waiting for someone to pay your bills, where you're waiting for someone to be blamed for not coming through for you. You're independent. And then what? That higher calling and purpose that will enable you to give more, to act more in that community of like-minded people because you've elevated yourself past that level of independence. And in terms of emotional management, that higher level is when you're able to walk away from instigation. Walk away from those minimal things that make you go, me, they insulted me, they did this to me. That's the level of dependence. When someone's words impact on your entire mood and day and feelings towards yourself, you're dependent on validation from externally. But when you're that self-aware and independent person, you're able to walk away from those things. You don't take them personally because you're self-aware. You know your values. You know your heart and your mind and your thoughts. So they do not dictate to you. I know who I am. I am not going to be insulted by you. So think about these words. You, I, and we. This message comes down to 6 words which we use every day in our lives. And I want you to start using these words mindfully from this point on. When you're dependent, your life and everyday vocabulary is laced by the word you. And that's not to say we don't use that word in other positive circumstances. But just start being more mindful every time you say, you didn't call me, you didn't come through, you didn't do this. Yes, you're hurt by those situations, but it shouldn't beat you up or break down your mood past 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. It starts to mean that you're dependent on that person's phone call to be happy. You're dependent on that thing that the person had to do or failed to do. Your well-being has been shattered because you did not come through or you did something that did not align. The second set of words is independence, and that's described by I. I am going to get up and go do this thing. I'm not happy with what they did to me, but I'm going to start to do this thing. I am lacking knowledge in this area, so I'm going to do this thing. I have not seen this friend for a while, so I'm going to call her up. Don't wait and be mad because they didn't call or it didn't happen. And finally, we. Have you heard from so and so? We need to meet. We need to see her. We need to do something about this thing. When you are independent and able and capable to stand on your own firm feet, help someone else. Look at some other calling, some other forum that can enhance that independence, because the taller you stand, the better you're able to support others around you. And you can never be too tall for learning, for sharing, and for belonging in a larger calling. So think about these things and do things a bit differently from this point on. One thing that Stephen repeats constantly through this book is that you should share this message with somebody. So here I am sharing because it made an impact on me when I read these words. So don't keep it to yourself. Definitely make sure you share this message with someone else. You never know who will start to see things differently in their lives. Don't use you too much. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter where you're sitting now. The only way you can start to grow and get out of that area is to start doing things that are more aligned with me and I and what I can do. And once you get to that higher point, start the way message, the way action, the way input, and you will find yourself growing persistently from that little baby who needed everything, who wanted people to come through, to a mature person who makes mistakes, who trips and falls, but knows that I, more than anyone else, will pick me up. And once I'm up and standing, I will help other people so that we can stand together.